All right, welcome to part 2 of 1-point perspective. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to create stackable boxes and boxes going back in space. So just to show you what that can look like, here's an example of some stackable boxes. So just like the boxes we created already, we're going to create some that look like they're stacked on top of each other. Then I'm also going to show you how to draw boxes going back in space. So to get started, make sure you have a piece of paper in front of you, a ruler, pencil, and an eraser. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw out my horizon line. Now you can certainly use an existing piece of paper you have with your horizon line already on there, or you can feel free to flip to a new sheet of paper or to the back of the paper and start new. So I've got my horizon line here. I'm going to put in my vanishing point. All right, and then I'm going to come down and work. Let's work in the lower right-hand corner. So the first thing for a stackable box that you need to do is you're going to create the face of your box, which in this case is just a rectangle or a square. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to draw two rectangles. So I've got one right here. Then I'm going to come down just a little bit below that. I'm going to draw another one. This one I'm going to make a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and connect this. Again, make sure you guys are using your ruler as you're drawing so you have nice straight edges. Feel free to erase and correct anything as you go. It's better to have it right the first time so you don't have to come back and erase later. Just makes it a little bit easier. All right, so now I've got my two rectangles in there, the face of my box. So now I'm going to work towards bringing those lines back to my vanishing point. So I'm going to start with the smaller rectangle, and I'm going to bring those lines back to my vanishing point. I'm drawing a little bit darker here so you can see it on the video. But you can go ahead and draw a little bit lighter if that's easier for you. Just makes erasing a little bit easier when you get to that point. Alright, so now I have those lines going back to my vanishing point. I'm going to go ahead and trim this box before I start this one. And again, when you're trimming, just make sure you've got those parallel lines. So because I have a horizontal line here, I know it needs to be horizontal back here. And same with my side line. I need to make sure it's vertical. It's not going at an angle. Straight up and down. All right, then I'm going to erase these lines back here. Mine don't erase super well because I drew a little bit darker, but that's okay. You can still get the point. Then I'm going to repeat that process with this box down here. I'm going to bring those lines back to my vanishing point. And you'll notice this side is a little smaller because this line is almost directly underneath my vanishing point. So as you work, when you get below your vanishing point, your view shifts a little bit. So just keep that in mind. It's totally fine, but just something to remember. Now this line is a little bit different because it's going to intersect my top box, but I don't want it to go through it. So I drew it, stopped, and then I can pick it back up on the other side. So it's going to look a little something like this. And then that same process, I can go ahead and trim this box up. This line's going to be a little bit tricky to see. And then I can go ahead and erase those lines in the back. And then what you're left with, two boxes stacked on top of each other. There's a little overlap here, but that's okay. Could even sort of become like stairs or steps. You could stack as many boxes as you wanted to on top of each other. So that's what that looks like. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to draw boxes going back in space. That's what this looks like. So I'm going to come and work in this section on my paper, and I'm going to start by drawing another rectangle. A square is fine too. And again, that's called the face of your object. Face of the box, face of the cube, whatever it is that you're going to make. I'll draw that in there with my ruler. And then you're going to connect this back to the vanishing point like normal, but don't erase anything just yet because there's a couple extra steps in this process. Bring those lines back to my vanishing point and make sure you're using your ruler. All right, so there I've got my lines going back to my vanishing point. So go ahead and trim up your box as you normally would, but don't do any erasing. So make sure you've got that vertical and that horizontal line going across. So it's going to look like this. Then instead of erasing, what we're going to do is come up to this side and draw a second vertical line with a little space in between your first line and your second line. Then what I want you to do is erase that little gap in between, those lines that are making the little gap. Go ahead and erase those. So now you really do have a space, okay? Then you're going to do the same thing with that horizontal line and then come back and erase this little area right here. All right, so now what you have is one box, and then we have the start of a second one, but we need to finish this out to make it look like a box. So in this area right here, take your ruler, line it up to that corner, and I want you to draw a vertical line. All right, and then on this side, you're going to draw a horizontal line going straight across. So now you can see we've got the start of our next box. Then I'm going to repeat that process again to draw the next one. Let's have at least 3. If you want more, that's fine, but have at least 3.